All right, welcome to this video. I'm sitting here at this bar, and if you're wondering why it's dusty, it's because we don't drink. But what we talked about in our last video was raising the bar, raising your standards for yourself. And if you took action on that, congratulations. However, if you're watching this video right now and you're like 80–90% of people, most people, there's a very high chance that you didn't take action on what you learned, even though you now know what to do. And this is extremely common, and that's why I got out of shape in 2018, because I knew what to do, but yet I wasn't doing it. I wasn't accountable. I was channeling my motivation in a different direction. And like many other busy professionals and entrepreneurs, I was putting all of my energy into the business. It was a business in a gym. It was actually doing about 20K a month when I started, and we got it to 80K a month, which is great. You know, we were a 7-figure run rate within 18 months. However, in doing so, I channeled all my time, energy, and youth into the business. You know, I had only aged from age 22 to 24, yet I found myself in a place where I felt like I had aged 10 years in pushing that business forward. I needed 3 to 4 cups of coffee just to get out of bed in the morning, or actually it was doses of caffeine. I would literally take the caffeine pills before I could roll out of bed. I was super burnt out. And maybe you're in a similar position right now where you just feel so tired and so burnt out at the end of each day that the prospect of adding anything extra, even if it's a little 5-minute reflection on what your higher values are, which is what we covered inside of the last video, as well as some of the other action points, the idea of doing so might seem completely out of the question because you already feel so overwhelmed that the idea of doing one more thing sounds like too much. You know, it's funny, people recommend books to me all the time because I surround myself with people who read books, yet I have such a backlog of books that are already on my list that I've already bought on Audible that I haven't had the time to listen to yet, that whenever somebody gives me a book recommendation, my mind almost like zones out because yes, I want to take the recommendation. If it comes from someone who I really respect, I might move it to the front of the queue. That being said, I typically will just add it to the back of the queue and not actually follow it. So maybe that's what you did with my advice yesterday. Maybe you haven't even seen that video yet. I encourage you to check it out after this. But regardless of what knowledge you may have right now, another concept we talked about in last video briefly was information versus implementation. And so that's what we're really going to dive into today, and how to actually problem solve that, where maybe right now you're frustrated with yourself, maybe even beating yourself up a little bit, which is okay, but stop beating yourself up for a sec and just listen, because maybe you're beating yourself up that you know what to do, yet you're not doing it. This is a point of frustration that I found with myself, that I find with many of my clients, especially part of my clients who are actually ex-athletes, just like I was, who have gotten out of shape since starting a business. So if you used to work out and you stopped working out when you started a business or when you entered a high-paying, high-stress career, well, then you're going to resonate with this a lot, because these action points are going to help you massively with actually taking action on the things that you're learning. Because at the end of the day, you've probably consumed a lot of information like this, but information without implementation is simply masturbation and procrastination. Okay? I'll let that land for a sec. So when we listen to information, when we learn things, when we read things, we feel good. But sometimes we confuse that feeling of feeling good, that little dopamine boost inside of our brain, as simply having taken action already. We feel fulfilled already that we learned the thing and we feel good, but we don't actually take action on it, which means we don't actually get results, which means a month later or however long later, when we stop feeling good, when we lose that dopamine, we find ourselves in a rut once more. We find ourselves back at square one, sometimes square -2. This is something that people have said to me many times, or maybe they've purchased a quick fix fitness program, or they've purchased some kind of quick fix, or they've bought into some kind of quick fix, a get rich quick scheme, whatever it might be, a shiny object, only to find themselves back at square one a month later. In the specific example of fitness, there's popular programs out there like P90X, KinoBody, a lot of things, which theoretically, well, I'm not in a huge agreement with the methodology of P90X, but KinoBody in theory actually works really well. Yet, if you don't actually follow it, and you don't actually follow it consistently, you're not really going to get results. Okay? And this is a huge point. And again, I think KinoBody is great. There's a couple things I disagree with as far as like what's optimal, but that's not the point of this video. We've talked about that in other videos, like what I think about intermittent fasting and all that other stuff. But today what we're going to talk about is actually staying consistent. A lot of people think it's motivation. And I'll ask you this question, because I think this will really bring things into perspective. Do you feel motivated every day to go to work? Probably not. In fact, if you've been burnt out for a very long time, if you find yourself in a place of burnout, there's a very high chance that it's possibly been months or even years since you last felt motivated to go to work. Or maybe it's only been once in a blue moon that you truly feel motivated, on fire like you did when you first started your business or when you first got into your career. This is totally normal, and I totally understand, because I've been through this as well. And there's plenty of days where even today, you may not believe it by the level of fire I'm bringing today, but there are days where I wake up and I don't feel like it. In fact, this morning, I laid in bed for a little bit before I felt like getting up, and I did my discipline run, which is something I do Monday through Wednesday. I have another video on this if you want to check it out, which is just a way of giving myself a little bit of extra discipline Monday through Wednesday. It's not for fitness reasons or anything, just to get myself going. And I encourage you to train your discipline too. We talk about this in other videos as well, but inside of this video, what I really want to dive into is simply the fact that you don't need motivation to do something. You don't need motivation to take action. You need to take action to take action. And that can be difficult. There are different factors at play. There's accountability, there's discipline, motivation, and drive are a factor, which will obviously help you get momentum. Momentum's a factor. There's so many different factors, but instead of focusing on some of the factors that you can't control, let's just focus on controlling the controllables. And just like how inside of your business, even though you don't feel like it, you still take action, likewise, there's a certain level of accountability and there's a certain standard which we need to be at in order to continue taking action. And part of that standard is, again, like we talked about in the last video, making an identity shift from being a learner to being an action taker. I commend you on being a great student, but part of being a great student is taking action on what you've learned, because until you've actually implemented it and gotten results from it and truly internalized it, you haven't truly learned something. I can't tell you how many books that I've read, not taken action on, and then completely forgotten because I didn't truly learn it. I didn't truly action it. If I don't action it, I don't truly learn it. Same thing, I've worked with mentors who have given me all the tools, systems, and strategies and the tactics inside of business, but without actually putting them into implementation, they just became, fun tools in the toolbox, but I never truly learned them and I never truly internalized them. So I hired a number of mentors who taught me the same thing over and over again from different angles until I finally just got it, took action, and made it happen. But really, one of the mentors who's made the biggest difference, I want to give a shout out to this guy, James Goff. He is an amazing mentor because he actually holds you accountable and follows up with you every single day. Now, before this becomes a testimonial for him, I've already done a couple of those, and I will continue to do them because he's a great mentor. What I learned from him that I've been able to apply with my clients is really holding my clients accountable at the highest level. And I think that this is a big thing that makes a huge difference. I don't think that you should rely on somebody outside of yourself to motivate you, but I think that both external motivation and internal motivation have a lot of merit. Now, we've talked a little bit about internal motivation. We'll talk about it a little bit in today's video as well. But just on the point of external motivation, one of my clients is actually a very high-level fitness coach. In fact, I have a couple of clients who are fitness coaches themselves. And this particular individual was actually a former CrossFit Games athlete champion. He's been training for 20 plus years. He runs a 7-figure business. He's got a ton of staff members who are working for him. He's got hundreds of clients. The guy is a freaking legend. He's a beast. He knows exactly what to do. I would actually say that his training knowledge is probably even more expansive than mine, simply by the volume of experience. He's owned multiple gyms. He's done a lot of different things in his life, yet he reached out to me for help because he needed somebody to guide him and hold him accountable. Not because he didn't know what to do, but simply having that external motivation, that external accountability. I'll probably attach a couple screenshots. I've posted a testimonial of his inside of my free Facebook group, and we're doing an interview in the future as well once he completes his transformation. But we've been able to get this guy great results, not because he didn't know what to do beforehand, but because we were able to hold him accountable to do so. And then he had the internal motivation structures in place to be able to implement that along with the external accountability to then stay consistent and produce results. And this is ultimately what we do. And that's why before working with anybody, we always actually interview somebody prior to working with them to make sure that we can actually guarantee we generate a result before we even discuss pricing. This is so important because, this whole thing is a two-way street. In order for us to give you the external motivation, you need to be able to communicate and then be accountable to us. And obviously we need to make sure there's good chemistry. Otherwise we refer you to somebody who we feel that you might be a better chemistry for. But anyways, before we go into a rabbit hole with that, what can you take action on right now? There's internal motivation, there's external motivation. So I'd encourage you to find an accountability partner, find a coach who you resonate with, find somebody who's knowledgeable, a knowledgeable professional, or just a friend who has high standards, and have that person hold you accountable. If it's a friend, maybe pay them to hold you accountable, because that's going to give you more skin in the game to allow you to take greater action and obviously get better results. Now, let's dive into internal motivation. And you guys have heard me talk about this from various angles on this channel, on this page, but I'm going to dive into it again today now that we kind of have this perspective where you know how to create external strategies for motivation. Let's talk about the internal strategy. So one of my favorite quotes, and I've heard this from multiple mentors, and I love this quote, and I've shared it with pretty much all of my clients, is the reason needs to be greater than the resistance in order for you to take action. If the reason is not greater than the resistance will always win. So we need to be able to stack our reasons, which is something I learned from my mentor, Lynn. We need to be able to stack our reasons. So for instance, when I was in a little bit of a financial rut, the thing that got me out of that rut was just the motivation to get out of debt. But when I found myself then in a place where I was comfortable, I was making enough money to pay for pretty much everything that I wanted, I needed to find a greater reason to get myself to produce at a higher level inside of the business. Now, you may or may not relate with this. You might have been somebody who's just always been driven inside of business. But for me, I was actually somebody who just wanted to be comfortable and just wanted to have freedom. That was what originally got me into the online business world until I developed more of an obsession with just dominating and being the very best, which is where I'm at right now. But taking it back to that point where I was at, where maybe you've been in a similar position, or maybe you can apply this metaphor to your fitness instead, I had to stack my reasons. So I actually went through a list of every team member who depended on me to generate revenue for our business consulting business that I was a part of from July 2019 to July 2020. It was a great opportunity to work with Lynn personally as one of his staff members. And I had to actually stack my reasons where it was like, okay, LJ, our client support coach, if I don't bring clients into the business and I don't produce, his family isn't going to eat. So I had to look at a picture of his kid, of his wife, and stack that reason and say, these people will not eat if I do not produce. I had to look at Lynn, my mentor, his wife, his daughter, and say, if I don't produce, these people don't eat. I had to look at all of our other staff members and truly take myself to that place to stack my reasons. Now let's take it to fitness. If right now you're in a place where you show up to your family burnt out, tired, you're not present, your mind is on the business, your mind is so numb and tired from work, maybe you've drank after work to try to take the edge off, maybe you've indulged in other vices to get your mind off work, that right now you're with your family, but you're not truly present. You're not the father that your family deserves. And you find yourself in a place where your family just isn't engaged with you. Your kids maybe don't respect you or don't get excited when you come home. Same with your wife. She doesn't have that same excitement when she sees you that she did when you guys first met. That's powerful. Think about their lives. Think about how they're feeling. Think about the influence and the impact that you're having on them. And in the pursuit of having influence and impact by generating success inside of your career, you've neglected the people who are most important to you. And one thing that's really helped, because I've talked to a lot of business owners, and some business owners, it's really hard to go there. What we actually have to do is fast forward 20 years or to the end of your life or however old you may be. Let's say we take you to age 60, 70, 80, or let's just take you to your deathbed. I want you to look back on your life and what would be your greatest regrets? What would be your greatest regrets that you could have fixed right now? For a lot of people, that's going to be their relationships. That's one of the most common things people hear on their deathbed is, number one, I wish I was more present and enjoyed life. And I wish that I was there for my family and cultivated those relationships and didn't F up those relationships as well. Those are some of the biggest regrets that people have. Now, how do we connect this to fitness? Well, at the end of the day, if you're showing up burnt out, tired, out of shape, not feeling happy with yourself, not setting a great example for your children, if you have children, or simply just not being the man who you want to be, well, guess what's going to happen to the people around you? How are they going to perceive you? If you have team members, staff members, people who look up to you, people who depend on you to produce, and you're showing up unoptimized, producing far below your peak level simply because your energy levels are tanked, you need 3 to 4 cups of coffee to get up in the morning, well, are you doing those people a service or are you doing those people a disservice? You may have told yourself the story, which is what I told myself too, which is, you know what, I sacrifice my body, I sacrifice everything for this career. And again, sacrifice is commendable, but actually you're sacrificing a lot of performance and a lot of production and leaving a lot of revenue on the table that your team needs, that your company needs, that you need by being so burnt out and unoptimized. Now on the flip side, if we actually look, and again, this is about internal motivation, stacking those reasons, I encourage you to go further with this. Pause this video and take it further. Write this out. This is going to be really, really powerful for you. Go deep into that place of pain with yourself. I promise it's going to motivate you massively. And check out my other video on my top 3 motivation strategies. We go into deeper strategies on how to do this as well. But anyways, taking it back, now we look at the flip side. Well, guess what? What if you did actually fix your body? What if you did get in shape? What if you fixed all the other obstacles that might be in your way? Maybe a bad shoulder or a bad back or an old knee injury is the thing holding you back. Maybe it's your schedule. Maybe it's a lack of knowledge. There's so many different obstacles that might be holding you back, and I encourage you to identify each of them and ask yourself the question, what if I fixed each one of these obstacles? What would happen? What if I overcame all these challenges and conquered them? How proud of myself would I be? How proud would my family be? And what kind of man would I show up as for my family, for my partner, for my future partner if you're a single man? Who would I show up as for my team members, for my employees, for my supervisors if you work inside of another company, or for your boss if you work inside of another company, for your clients, for your prospects? What type of man would you be for them? Or what type of woman would you be for them if you're a woman watching this video? Again, these principles apply to both genders. I'm just gearing this towards men because I'm speaking from my experience and the men who I've worked with. There are women who I've worked with as well who are in a place where they were burnt out, where their hormones were crashed, where they've done diet after diet, shake after shake, pill after pill, cardio routine after cardio routine, and found themselves in a place where their metabolism was completely crashed. Their energy levels were tanked. Their entire hormonal physiology was screwed up, if you know what I mean. You'll know what I mean if you're a woman watching this and you have this happening. It's really, really important that we fix that. And many of these similar things happen to men as well. When our hormones aren't optimized, our drive, our energy is not on point. This will affect our relationship as well, especially if we can't perform inside of our relationship, if you know what I mean. It has an effect on hormones, okay? So again, what I'd encourage you to do is go through everything that is a consequence of you not being in great shape, you not being at your peak level, you not being in your prime and feeling like you peaked. Trust me, your peak has not come yet. Your peak is coming if you get on point with the disciplines that I'm teaching you inside this channel. your peak is coming. What's going to happen when you reach your peak? What's currently happening because you're not at your peak? And what can you do right now today to overcome this? I don't expect you to have all the answers. I hope I can give you as many answers as possible through this content, but the best way for us to actually be able to get you specifically clear in a time-efficient way on exactly what you need to do to get in shape in a time-efficient way, maintain it, and actually have a sustainable and enjoyable rhythm is to actually speak personally. And so what I'd like to do is, Black Friday is coming up right now. And instead of like giving you a sale on some half-assed product, I would rather actually just give you something for free for Black Friday. So what I'm gonna give you for free is an hour of my time, where we're actually gonna sit down and create an end of the year game plan for you. Now, if you're watching this video maybe a couple of years later, we might have a similar promotion going on, but right now, where we have 6 weeks left until the end of the year, I'd like to create an end of the year roadmap game plan for you so you can actually start 2021 with momentum instead of starting it behind like most average people do, because you're not an average man. If you've made it this far and this has resonated with you, you're not an average man. You've taken yourself to the highest level inside of your career. You have high standards for yourself. And as you start to go through more of my content and learn more from me, my hope for you is that that high standard applies to other areas of your life as well, and you're able to transfer that over, which I know that we can. And part of that is to actually create a solid game plan so that you don't finish the year the way that average people do, where they let themselves go, they gain quite a bit of fat over Thanksgiving, they get fat over the holidays, and then they start off the year financially behind, physically behind, energetically behind. Maybe they even have some stress and tension that breaks out in their relationships over the holidays as well, while they're in closer quarters and they're tired, burnt out, irritable, whatever it might be. Most average people start the year behind. But I know that if 2020 has been a challenging year for you, maybe you've crushed records in business but neglected your fitness, or maybe it's been a tough year for you business-wise and fitness-wise and just overall. Well, I'd like to help you generate some momentum, so I'm going to be giving an hour of my time to 5 people, and I'll attach the link below for this opportunity. But essentially, what I want to do is sit down with you and go through whatever challenges you're currently facing right now, whatever you're hoping that I might be able to help you with, and at least give you some actionable steps to be able to fix that by the end of the year. Now, obviously, at the end of the call, if you'd like to work together, or if you're interested in working together, you can ask me about that and I can talk about what that looks like so you can decide whether you want to be a part of that or not. But we're not even going to pitch on this call unless you ask us to. I just want to give you some free value to say thanks for listening, thanks for watching, here's my goodwill, and maybe in the future, depending on whether you want to become a client right then or not, maybe in the future you reach out and you let me know what success you're able to achieve together. Maybe we work together, maybe you refer a friend. I don't know what's going to happen as a result of putting out goodwill. All I know is the more goodwill I put out, the more amazing clients like you that I get. That's all. So what I want you to do right now is, number 1, take action on what you've learned. If those 5 spots remain, if you click the link below and there's still spots, you'll know that those are available. Feel free to book one of those in. We'll confirm. We'll just make sure that that time is for sure going to work for you and that you can for sure be there. And from there, I'm going to give you an hour of my time so we can actually create an end of the year game plan for you, 100% free, to ensure that you can then take that game plan from our call and take action on it, get momentum, and ultimately enter 2021 having lost weight, having gained momentum, energy, confidence, power, presence, everything that you need to show up as the focused and disciplined man that you know that you can, should, and will be inside of your career, back on fire, back in your prime, ready to crush it and make 2021 your greatest year yet. Information is one thing, implementation is another. We're going to talk about how exactly you can implement some of the general principles covered here, specifically tailored to you, to ensure that you're able to succeed inside of 2021. I'm looking forward to it.